love your story, and I've just seen how God is, you know, you grow up. I just remember years ago just being at, you know, your coronation. I'm thinking, oh, there's Princess Arielle, all dressed in her beautiful yellow, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, just celebrating that moment in your life. And think someday she's going to be a wife and a mother, and life is going to go on, and then we all just kind of move forward in different seasons, and then you hear different things that have happened. You know, I mean, your mother and I are close friends, and, you know, we kind of are connected in so many different ways. And, you know, just when one family member hurts, you know, when Sue hurts because, you know, she's Nana, she's grandma, she's lost also too, you know. And when I hear stories of people hurting, it hurts me, you know. And I just take it to the Father in prayer. And I've always known that you were going to have children. I was set on it. I will not take no for an answer. And so it's the prayer of the saints coming around you, people that are strong in their faith that could come around you and say, you know, God said it, it's going to happen. And, you know, and when you see that happen, you can be sure that God's going to speak out of you and share out of what your story was about to another person that may come across your pathway, that you can speak into them hope and you encourage them. And the word of prophecy will come out of your own mouths to bring hope to a person that needs it at that moment. And I've seen that happen over and over, if not that already have happened. But, you know, that's what God does, is that he'll take your devastation and all the things that you've gone through in your life to heal another person. And he does that over and over and over again. And I'm just grateful where God's taking you. And I know you're going to have more. And God's just fulfilling your life with beautiful things. And I'm glad you were able to share your story with us tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Praise the Lord. Yeah. Thank you for listening to us. And at this moment, I like to open it up real quick. If anyone has any questions out there. Megan's got the microphone. So if anyone has any questions about, oh, there we go.
Arielle, I'd just like to know, how did this fulfilled promise affect your faith today?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good question. I think it just builds confidence for sure that because you're not in that waiting period anymore. Or I was not in that waiting period anymore. Right. To see it happen, to hold Nadia, to have a healthy baby girl is incredible. And I think as Christians we parent a little differently, right? We recognize God. I'm her mom, and I'm blessed to be her mom, especially because it took so long for her to come here, you know. Right. But I'm also trying to steward her. I'm trying to shepherd her. God, help me to do this well, you know. Right. So I think that it just makes me aware of bringing God into my parenting, into the next phase of life, for sure. Yeah.
Right. That's good. Yeah.
So, through your awesome story and victory and how God blessed you to have this beautiful daughter, Arielle, how has God used that for you to, has he brought you ministry opportunities or people in your life that you've been able to share your testimony and encourage other women? Or
I think if Johanna had asked me before Nadia to come and share with you ladies, I would have been like, well, what could I possibly say? I serve God, but it's very basic. It's very just everyday life is going on. I'm clocking into work, I'm clocking out of work. So even having this opportunity to come and share with you ladies, I mean, I feel like that is a build upon what God's done, because it's just, honestly, I was really nervous to come here today, but I felt like God just be like, you're just talking about us. You're just talking
Right.
about what we're doing, I don't need to blow it out of proportion
Right.
or add baking soda to this.
Right.
This is my life,
That's right.
So in that way, I think it's just as you build relationships,
Yeah.
as you're vulnerable with people, and then you start sharing, okay, this is what I walked through.
Right.
And this is, my daughter is a special gift to me. She's definitely a miracle child, and we both, Matthew and I both feel that way, that
Yeah.
God was involved in her life from the get-go. And I know he is in everyone's life, but we're just very aware of it with her, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that, you inspired me, because I think in many times that, for the devastation that you've gone through, and I would think about, what would it be like to lose a child? And, I didn't necessarily had miscarriages, but, I did in my younger days, aborted a child. And I don't agree with abortions, but I did overcome the guilt and the shame and the hidden secret of what I did back in my younger days, because I was held in bondage for many years until the Lord set me free. So I'm free to share that I had an abortion. And, many times I would think about the loss of that child that I could have raised, and here you're wanting to have a child, and it's out of your control where you lose one. And the dynamic of that, one, you want to get rid of it because you just want to get rid of it, and yet one's here that is hoping for one and loses it out of control. You still go through devastation, because when I went through in my 20s with that abortion, I did go into a very critical stage mentally, where I was numb, because I had a breakdown, because I knew what I did was wrong, and what I did was deep, and so I came to a point where I did have a breakdown, and it only takes his act of love and grace and mercy to come and pick up those pieces and bring it back together. Mine was out of devastation, of shame and guilt and conviction. Yours was out of just being stolen from, ripped away from you. And then, why me, God? So there's two different emotions, but those emotions are still very deep. So it doesn't matter what things we go through. We all have some deep things that God is trying to, help us through, so that we can overcome and get those things behind us and buried in the grave with Jesus Christ, so that we can rise up above that story that's painted of hopelessness to another picture of us with the beauty of God on us, and the grace and mercy that we can carry out in our life with his word. And see, that's the newness that takes place. That's the born again, new creation, new life, going from the caterpillar to the butterfly transition, but it's in that state that you're in that God restricts you and says, wait a minute, hold on, stop what you're doing, pay attention to who I am and who you are, so that we can converse and understand that we are entwined, interconnected in such a way that when you come out of this, you're going to see for who you are and how I see you. And see you said, the goodness of God song, who is who you are, is who you are,
Right.
but it's also who I am.
Right.
And it's and that's the relationship that we have with God, and that's the beauty of God. So, anybody else? Helen and Nicole. Thank you, ladies, for asking questions. Thank
Okay,
you.
sweetheart, I know you. You weren't in this alone.
That's right.
Matthew was in this too.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
he lost those days the same. I want to know what you would say to women that would close off to their husbands
Yes.
or forget that their husbands just
Mhm.
lost the exact same thing that you did.
That's right.
It just didn't come out of his body.
Right.
How hard was that for you and Matthew to make that through together? What adjustments did you have to make to cohabitate in your house with such devastation?
Yeah.
Um,
That's good.
the whole process for us was very much recognizing that it wasn't just because we wanted to build a family, right? So we were very aware, like dealing with fertility issues and not that it was always smooth. No. Sometimes
Right.
there was anger. Sometimes there was
Right.
frustration. Sometimes there was blame. Sometimes, you know what I mean? You deal with
Yes.
these emotions when there are big things.
Mhm.
So as a couple, when we go through loss and we go through grief, we had to make room to have conversations, just the two of us, because it's easy to, again, you're hurt, to shut down or to go cocoon yourself, you know. We had to circle back to it. I think that's interesting too. When you lose something, everyone else's life goes on,
Right.
but you're still hurting. So 7 weeks down the road, why isn't anyone still talking about this? This was huge to me, you know?
Right.
So as a couple, we had to touch base. We had to make room to have conversations. We had to
Very good.
just sit and hold hands and
Right.
sit and cry together. Sometimes he would just listen to me. Sometimes I would just listen to him.
Right.
And it wasn't always comfortable. It wasn't always like smooth or natural or, you know, you had to recognize that we're in this together. And maybe there were points, I think there definitely was a point where I felt like, you're over it and I'm still hurting. And he had to say, no, I'm not. Like this, I wanted this too, you know?
Right.
So I don't know that we consciously did it. I know that there were a few people in our life who pointed out the fact that it wasn't just my pain, you
Right.
know? And so helped me to see, like, to make room and time
Right.
for our marriage in the midst of grief, you know?
Right. That's
I don't know how to say that other than to say, try to watch out for that. Try to speak to that in your own lives or to those close to you. To recognize that yes, you're hurting, but someone else is hurting too, and that to get through it together, you need to try to have a moment together. You know, you need to
Right.
try to face it together.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking that question, and thank you for answering, because see, what happens if she had decided to isolate and not talk about it ever, and him do the same? You can't just ignore something that's devastating and just move on in life and think that that's not going to come and rise up sometime and hit you hard. You have to deal with that. You have to go, not that you have to go and dig up your past. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you go through something tragic, at the moment, knowing that how God can help you. If you give room to talk it out, work it out, especially between a husband and wife, you guys have done this together. You have to work through this together. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
You have to work out things and get it out on the table and look at your options and decisions and what's going to happen the next time, and talking about your feelings to each other. You're one.
And praying together.
Absolutely.
And when we were actually pregnant with Nadia, like having those conversations again, because maybe the fear is still there. The fear
Right.
can pop up, so we had to be like, okay, this is a little scary, and I don't know if we're going to get past this particular week. This is when this happened last time,
Right.
So we had to make room for that. Yeah, for sure.
That's good.
For
That's
sure.
good.
Address it.
And see, a lot of people, let's look at a different situation. Let's say if Arielle and Matt, decided not to talk about it, that when they move on in life, that hurt will still be there. It can come up when you have another child, and your decision makings on raising that child, what was painful could also affect your raising that child in the
Sure.
future. And so, but a lot of people out there don't know that you're carrying your pain into the next situation or the next thing, especially people that are dating. I want to kind of use that as an example. You break up, you're hurt, you're broken, then you go and you meet someone else, and then you're carrying all that pain with all your expectations that the next guy's going to be your charming. Maybe he is in the beginning, but when it comes down to all the lovey-lovey's gone, it's down to responsibility, you're going to be fussing and hurting about different things because you're looking at expectations of what you want from him, when really there's a lot of stuff going on inside of you that you've brought your problems into the mix too, and vice versa. But when you're open in your heart and you don't want to hide, you don't want to shelter, you don't want to isolate, you don't want to keep your problems as it is and I put it over here. You gotta work through that pain, and yet more than that, work your pain out with Jesus, because he's the one, that it helps us. That's the agency of the Holy Spirit. He's our teacher, our comforter, and our guide. The Holy Spirit is there to help us through every situation. Absolutely. So, anybody else? Oh, Nicole, you had a question?
All right, so Helen touched on a little bit of what my question is, and it's about Matt. So my sister-in-law has dealt with miscarriages, and I can't remember if I ever asked my brother how he was doing with the miscarriage, and I think sometimes we forget that it's like Helen said, it's not just you that's going through it.
Right.
That we kind of, I don't want to say subconsciously, we can tend to forget that the husband's maybe going through pain, and
Right.
we put all the attention on the wife, we put all the attention on the mom, and forget about the husband.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question to you is, one, was there a difference with Matt from the first one to the second one? And what did he go through? Was he open about it?
I think he definitely really tried to be strong for me, for sure. But if I asked him point blank, or, and I think a lot of people, he's a very private person, so some people will tell you when they're hurting, and they'll tell you what's going on in their world, and other people hold that a little bit closer to their chest, and there's only certain people they might let in and let know what they're thinking, what's going on in their head. So sometimes he would stiff upper lip, and other times he would be real, and fertility issues for us, most of you know my husband works for this, he's a state prosecutor. He works for the prosecutor's office, and he, you know, you see people from all walks of life doing things. And I know that it was hard sometimes to see other people continue to build their families and us to not feel like we were getting anywhere.
Right.
So we try to talk those things out and try to pray together, and he tried to be there for me, and when I came out of enough, I tried to be there for him, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely something we walk through together, because this is over several years for us, you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like okay, we tried in 6 months and it didn't happen.
Right.
It was unfortunately for us, it was many years.
Right.
So that was
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for sharing your story.